Good day, friends. Welcome to Our Power is Within. I'm your host, Chasmith, aka Just Chas, and I am on a mission to inspire people to take their power back and help people to realize that every one of us has a healer within our own self. When we can create an environment that supports healing and get out of our own way, we are truly capable of healing in mind, body, and soul. Whether you have been following along with me on this journey the whole time, or if it's your first episode, thank you so much for being here with me. I really appreciate each and every one of you. And if you feel called to help me spread the message of empowerment, healing, and possibility, please consider leaving a review on Apple Podcast or a 5-star rating if and only if I have earned it, and or sharing your favorite episode on social media and tagging me at Our Power is Within. How was last week's habit challenge? Did you get a chance to think about what you wanted to replace and write it down? How about practice? I would love to hear what you guys are working on or shifting in your life. So if you feel up to it, shoot me an email or a DM and let me know. I made a post last week about this challenge on Instagram, and I shared what I've been focusing on and shifting in my life, which is releasing the need for urgency and worry and replacing it with calm and trust in the universe, one day at a time. I will say that the universe is totally giving me all the perfect opportunities to practice these days, let me tell you. Do you guys know that saying, if you pray for patience, you don't just get patience, you get opportunities to practice patience? Yeah, so I guess if you pray for the ability to trust the universe and remain calm, you get opportunities to practice that. Anyhow, today's challenge is inspired by the chat that we're actually going to have today with Georgia Bird. And it has to do with a goal, one small, manageable goal, a goal that you actually look forward to, a goal that makes you excited and lights you up. And as you will hear later, Georgia's newest goal is going to be a fun run. And when you hear her whole story, you will understand why this is so exciting. So ask yourself, is there something small and manageable that I can set my eyes on and begin working towards? And remember, make sure that this something is exciting so that each day it drives you and propels you to do whatever you have to get there. And I do want to preface that in our culture, we often get so focused on some end result that we forget to celebrate the journey. So let's make this goal different. Perhaps you could make the goal something that actually requires you to do something every day that is truly enjoyable and fun. I want this to be about fun along the way for each of you. And if you do feel called to share your goal, I would love to hear all about it and celebrate with you along the way. So you can message me on Instagram, you can email me, and you can make a post and tag me. So as I did mention just a minute ago, our guest today is Georgia Bird. If I could sum up today's episode in one word, I would say possibilities. Georgia is here today to show us how incredibly amazing our brains and bodies truly are and what is possible. Do you guys remember episode 19 with Scott Robinson, aka the Brain Guy on Instagram? This episode got a lot of traction, which is no surprise to me at all because Scott is truly an absolutely amazingly gifted and inspiring human. He is not only incredibly wise and knowledgeable, but he has this crazy amazing gift that can help us to embody our miracles and discover what is possible in our own brain and body. Not to mention, he is truly one of the kindest, most down-to-earth and authentic people I've had the pleasure of connecting with so far. He provides so much informative and inspiring content on his Instagram and proof of possibility and hope. The work that Scott is doing is so intriguing and it's often complicating to explain or to put into words. Georgia does a great job of explaining her experience working with Scott the best she can. And then Scott also helped me to understand a little bit more into the complexities of her situation and how they navigated her healing together. Georgia has now been working with Scott 4 years, and they've accomplished some really amazing things. So I do want to give a brief background before getting into the interview with Georgia. In her youth, Georgia had what is called a hemispherectomy. A hemispherectomy, that's a tongue twister, is removing half of your brain. In Georgia's situation, it was her right side. And in case anyone listening is not familiar with how the brain connects to our body, the right side of the brain controls the left side of the body, and the left side of the brain controls the right side of the body. So, despite years and years of physical therapy and work post operation, by the time Georgia had been introduced to Scott, she had been briefed that she was declining. There were concerns that she could possibly end up spending the rest of her life in a wheelchair after many incidents of her falling down and often not being able to get herself back up. She had a significant foot drop that required the use of her whole body to lift her foot, and her whole body was also required just to help shrug up her left shoulder. When her and Scott started working together, he admitted that he didn't exactly know how to approach everything physical at that time. So he began to help her in the ways he did know how. And he began to work with her to clear all of the emotional conflicts out of her system. As you can imagine, having been a young girl going through such an intense procedure and the aftermath effects, Georgia had accumulated a lot of emotional charge around these experiences. Soon after, Scott discovered that he could clear a lot of charge out of her system and improve her function by working along the scar lines, which ran across her whole skull. The next layer was Scott working different points of the cranium and connecting different points of brain maps and integration of the somatic nervous system to restore function one muscle at a time, connecting the left side muscles with the existing cortex, which was on the left side of the brain, which he termed targeted neuroplasticity. Something really fascinating that he discovered along the way is something called phantom brain, similar to phantom limb, whereby even though there was no right side of the brain, there was still memory associations on that side, and the left side of the body muscles were still trying to connect to the right side of her brain that didn't exist. This is so intriguing to me. So, all of this work 4 years later has led to some really profound results. Going from frequent falls without being able to help herself up, Georgia now experiences restored function in her left leg. She's able to walk on sand, and she is currently learning to run. She has many other really amazing results along the way that she will share with you in her story. And I don't want to ruin it by telling you now, so we'll go ahead and let her share more. I'm just truly excited to have this opportunity to speak to this woman and share her story with you because she is truly an inspiration. Her perseverance and her positive attitude and commitment to show up for herself and do the work beside Scott is truly amazing. And if you don't already follow Scott on Instagram, I really encourage you to give him a follow. And if you are teetering with the idea of working with Scott, I say yes, because he's truly a brilliant and amazing soul. So anyhow, I hope you guys enjoy today. Georgia's story is truly incredible and inspiring, and she is a gift to all of us. Through sharing her story today, she shows us what is possible. So let's welcome her to the show. Hey, Georgia, thank you so much for being here with me today on the podcast and being willing to share your story for people who are out there listening.
That's okay, Chaswas. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, I got an opportunity to listen to a little interview that Scott had done a couple years back that was about your progress very early on in your time that you spent with him. And it's so fascinating and I'm like mind blown. And so I'm really excited to hear more and from you and like your personal experience, especially now that it's been a couple years since you even started working with him.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's crazy how time has flown, actually, what we've been doing and how we've been doing it, and it's actually expanded my field of awareness as well. So it's really exciting to be part of it. And I see him once a week, and we have fun, and we kind of try and make life a bit easier for me, which is it's just incredible to be part of. So I'm eternally grateful, and he's presented this opportunity as well, which is just insane. So it's always something new and exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so you started working with him. I think in the interview it said 2017 and it's 2021. So you guys have been together a few years working.
Yeah, it's been insane. I've actually kind of lost count of how many years it's been. It's sort of the things that we've done. It's not really doesn't really fit into years. It's more how do I say it? It's just the quality of what we do. You can't really say, oh, we've done this within 6 months. It's.
My guess is that what the amount of magic that you've experienced, you can't quantify the amount of time it takes because every time is worth it because of what you're gaining from it.
Yeah, and I never quite know what I'm going to get with Scott. I kind of walk into each session completely open-minded and ready to experience the next big thing. And he's always, every time I walk into his little surgery, I guess we call it, is he's always like, "Oh, Georgia, I've got this new thing that's happening. It's really exciting, and I'm ready to like implement it on you." And he's so excited. He's so full of beans. It's hard not to be like not excited and match his energy. It's insane. And so far, the benefits that I've received in my physical abilities is just insane. No, it's just interesting when I try and explain to my friends and family like what it is that Scott and I do. It's chakras, it's healing, it's I can't. It's really hard to actually say to my friends and family, here's what we do. All I can do is just show them the result. In my
Mhm.
presentation. So
That makes sense. And when you first started going there, did you ever at that time have any thought in the world that you would be where you are today?
no, I thought I thought that was it for me. My neurologist said basically like this is as good as you're going to get, and time and again I've gotten better and better, and it's incredible where I'm at now compared to where I was. So
That's so awesome. All right, Georgia. So, since how we have a bunch of people listening who might not have heard any of your story yet, I was thinking it might be a good way to have you start out talking a little bit about like what you were going through leading up to meeting Scott, like what you were dealing with and going through and just what that your history prior to meeting Scott looked like.
yeah, absolutely. So when I was little, I had a very rare disease called Rasmussen's encephalitis. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with that, it's a disease that presents quite similar to epilepsy. I was having seizures from the age of about 7 to the age of 12. They were quite severe. I wouldn't be able to go to school, that kind of thing. Um, Now, for sort of as the years went by and those seizures kept happening, medications wouldn't work, and my body was gradually deteriorating to the point where I eventually couldn't use parts of my arm, my leg, that kind of thing. When I was 12, the neurologist said to my mother, basically, your daughter has 2 months to live, or you could chop out half her brain, which is the infected part of the brain, and she'd have to learn how to walk and talk and be self-sufficient again. So basically a 12-year-old baby. My mum made the impossible decision of making that call for surgery. My surgery took 24 hours to take out half my brain. From there, I spent about 3 to 4 months in intensive care, learning how to walk and be, a human again. Once I was able to walk and go to the bathroom myself, the hospital sent me on my way. And from there, I was doing therapies, physiotherapy with numerous different clinics and that kind of thing for years, up until about about 2017, which is where I met Scott. And he was an alternative thing. We kind of exhausted every normal mainstream medicine avenue with physio. It's always kind of like, move your leg 4 times and keep doing it. And it's just not enough. It's not open to all the avenues of healing and that kind of thing. So my neurologist said to me, look, you're as good as you're going to get at around 2017, which is not true. At that point, we were looking at alternative treatments and therapies, that kind of thing. And one of my family friends happened to know Scott through just a gym. And, from there we got in touch, and Scott and I started our treatments together. And we've been going on since 2017, as I mentioned. Where I am now is far from where I was then. It's insane to sort of look back and think, oh, wow, I really thought that was it. It's, the things I'm doing now, the way I'm able to just live my life is much more quality of life. And yeah, I'm just eternally thankful to Scott, and myself as well for persisting with him. And although it's not, you don't kind of see immediate benefits with him, you got to just stick it out, and just have faith. So we've been seeing each other for some time now, and it's always beneficial in the long term, and I'm just eternally grateful to him for everything we've done together.
That's awesome. So when you were saying in 2017, when you kind of ended up meeting him through a family friend, that you two things. One, you had the neurologist say, hey, this is just as good as it's going to get, accept it. And you were seeking more. And so what was actually going on with you at that time? Like, what were you feeling or experiencing in your body that you wanted to improve still, that you felt like you weren't getting?
Oh, even just like simple things, just like walking to the grocery store. I mean, I still, walking and all that gives me anxiety still, and it not as much as it did back then, because obviously I'm where I am now. But I sort of thought, is this really it? Like, I'm a young, energetic person. I've still got like a lot to give, and surely there's not just one avenue to pursue healing, surely this isn't it for me. So it was kind of just, I've always been hugely stubborn and hugely sort of hugely, there's got to be more, like more. There's got to be something else. There's got to be another avenue. I don't give up when a fight presents itself, as I'm sure from my story you're aware. So I have determination to keep building on that, and that's something that I'm going to have to maintain for my life, because it's a prognosis for life. My therapy is going to be for life, and so I guess it's just a good thing that God put a little bit of stubbornness into my mixture of Georgia. When he created.
Yeah. So it was more like there was just little things about your life and how you were living that you felt intuitively could be better, and that you could upgrade still, but you're getting like this negative message from your neurologist that says, nope, this is it. And that's why you just were like, no, I'm not going to accept that. I'm going to go find other ways to heal.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's, like, it's weird with my body. Like, sometimes something will happen, like I'll just be walking and I'll just start like doing a little jog or something, and it will go away as soon as it comes. And it's just like things like that sort of get you thinking that, hang on, can we do that again? There's got to be what just happened. My brain just like kicks into gear again, and it just keeps going. And it's like, normal physios, if it's not in a textbook, then it's just not existent.
Right.
So yeah, it's finding the right people, having all the stars aligned, and just being persistent with there's got to be more is really it for me.
Yeah. What are some of the fundamental biggest changes and shifts that you've seen from the life you were living and what you were able to do in 2017 to today?
Oh, I think it's quality of life. I'm able to, I now live alone, thanks to a lot of my mobility issues being, relatively minimal now. I'm able to like carry out daily duties, but I'd say my leg and my ankle is the biggest dramatic change. I'm able to, back when I first started with Scott, I could barely bend my knee. It was like kind of like trying to bend steel was how it was. Now I can, last week and actually even yesterday, I saw Scott and we were doing squats, and my bum was touching the ground.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I'm able to,
Full.
yeah, and I'm able to like push myself up off of that from like bum on the ground stance and jump up out of that position into like a standing position. So you do the math.
So full range of motion and even power to like actually bound.
Yeah. I mean, the range of motion is there. It's just the weakness at the moment, which is the next thing that we're working on. So there's not too much. There's the signals that are there, and that's because we have rewired my brain to see my left leg in the left hemisphere of my brain. So not sure if you
That is
how,
amazing.
yeah, not sure if you know how the brain works, but the right hemisphere controls the left part of your body, and the left hemisphere controls the right?
Yep.
So we've rewired all of my connections that should have been going to the part of my brain that's missing to the part of my brain that is there, which is no easy feat. That's taken persistence and a lot of dedication to do that. But it's paying off when I can do things like squatting down to the floor and jumping back up. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then like you said, just to have a different quality of life. You mentioned you're able to live alone now. I'm assuming
Yeah.
prior you didn't used to.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've always been very, very dependent on my mother, and for her, that's not terribly good. She's 65 and she needs to start living a life of her own, and so do I as a 25-year-old woman. So I'm currently living alone. I go to work. I work a full-time job, coincidentally in allied health, which is for people with disabilities and that kind of thing. So in a roundabout way, I've sort of ended up exactly where I need to be. And it's kind of a little bit poetic, I feel.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's huge. I mean, obviously, that's a huge shift for your knee. And you were talking about your ankle also getting a different experience. What was happening with your ankle?
Oh, my ankle just wouldn't move. I mean, imagine a mannequin and like how the ankle is just kind of like up and stuck. Like it's like a mannequin, yeah? I'm able to now rotate my ankle in a way that you kind of would do if you were stretching it. Like some circles and stuff like that. Which is just, it's insane because it wouldn't move before. I would not be able to even put shoes on properly because it's just hard for me to point my ankle down or up or whatever. I wouldn't actually have much feeling in my foot at all. And, the other day I went for a pedicure and it was just insane.
That's so awesome.
So minimal, but yet so significant. For things for me, it's these really small things that I go, that's really cool.
Yeah, and I mean, if your ankle's kind of stuck in one position, it probably made walking really challenging.
Exactly.
It sounds like you did it, but it was challenging.
It was, yeah. My limp is significantly less than what it was. I mean, I think that's the main thing. It sounds really sort of superficial, but it's my limp is more or less non-existent now than when it was back in 2017. It's insane that's because I can move my ankle and I can feel my foot and stupid things like that.
No, they're not stupid at all. They're huge. It's like a big deal.
Yeah, and it's really cool to sort of, I don't know, be able to, a lot of people tell me, you should be like a disability advocate, that kind of thing, because I'm sort of more of a high functioning person, and I know the struggles that these people of my community have, and I always think, yeah, maybe I should be doing that or something like that, but yeah, I'm blumming now.
What do you do? What do you do for your work? You said you work for Allied Health with people with disabilities. What do you actually do there?
Look, it's a desk job, it's a day job kind of thing. But my company sells and maintains medical equipment, so like walkers, wheelchairs, scooters, that kind of thing. And when it all breaks down and they're having issues with it, they call me and my team, and we go out on site and we get someone to go to their homes and fix it all up. Which is, for elderly and disabled people, it's really anxious. It's an anxious filled time. And it's nice for them to have someone on the end of the phone, even though they don't realize it, who actually knows what it's like to have a disability and an anxious mother and that kind of thing. So
Yeah, absolutely. You'll be able to relate and just help put them at a little ease in
yeah,
a
and
sense.
normally they don't really know that it's someone on like that on the other end of the phone, but normally they're screaming at me, but that's okay because I know what that anxiety is like. I know what those people have already got a lot going on in their lives, and their added anxiety because their wheelchair isn't working, that kind of thing. So anyway,
Yeah.
I digress.
No, it's all interesting. And so
Mm.
you also have the left arm that would obviously lose function if you don't have the right hemisphere of your brain,
Yeah,
right? Or is it, yeah.
yeah.
So what have you guys worked on your arm? Or are you really working from the ground up since the walking is like kind of the most important part?
Actually, my arm has kind of been. We started kind of giving it some attention, but I had as the years were progressing, and even but during the time I was seeing Scott, my arm was quite spastic. And it was curling up into itself. And so eventually, after what was it, 2008, about 11 years was after my surgery when I met Scott. So after 11 years and no progression at all there, I made the decision to put a plate in my arm. So that it cosmetically looks like a normal arm instead of curling up into itself. Um, so it just looks like a regular kind of arm, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to a non-regular arm. Um, so in terms of that, we don't really focus on that because it's kind of it is what it is. There's no even with Scott, there's no real way that we can fix that. So we focus mainly on my walking, my lower limbs, and that kind of thing. So my arm is it is what it is really, and I've been living now for X many years without it. It's not presenting me any issues really. I always say to people, how do you live with one arm? And they go, well, I can peel a prawn, a shrimp, I guess you guys will call
Mm.
it, in less time than the average person can with my one arm, my one hand. It's a weird flex, but it's um, it doesn't present me any issues really, apart from not being able to tie my laces or do my hair up, which is frustrating in the summer in Australia.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah,
So you okay, so you guys are working on all this stuff. Like there's the physical things with the leg and the foot and building, now you're building, you got your range of motion and now
yeah,
you're building strength. But I know like I know a lot of the work Scott does too also really has this impact on like the emotional body and like the super conscious kind of like belief systems. So do you guys work on that kind of stuff as well?
hugely, hugely. I actually haven't seen my psychologist in years because I've been sort of happy with the work that Scott and I do. Um, he's helped me kind of accept what's happened to me in a large part, and he's allowed me to be like, okay, it's not all bad, that's not where I'm gonna stay. There's room for growth. There's always room for growth. He's always like, oh, I found the next big thing, Georgia. Big things are gonna change. And it's like a sort of a mad scientist. You walk into his treatment room and he's like, oh, I found this and that, and things are gonna change, and it's really funny. It's kind of hard not to match his energy. But to a large part as well, it's emotional therapy. It's acceptance. It's positivity is just what he radiates, and it's so beautiful.
Yeah. That's awesome because that's so important. I mean, I think that our mindset and our attitude and healing the trauma of it all, right? Like the trauma of the seizures, of the surgery, of the recovery. Like I can see how working through all of that can be really powerful to like help impact the healing experience as you're gaining the strength and new movement.
Exactly. And I'm, by nature, I'm just a positive person as well. So he kind of, we just, feel each other's positive energy, and it really does, although we don't hit like specific issues, it's just the all round positiveness of it, and like the hope that he brings is just, it's insane. So yeah, it's emotional therapy as well as physical therapy, and healing and that kind of thing as well, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, which makes sense because the mind and body really are
Yeah, absolutely.
a thing.
Yeah.
So it's funny. I'm glad that you brought up that you're also, positive, because you were noticing, you were saying how he's super positive and his
Mm.
energy is, really positive and contagious. And I thought, I was sitting there thinking, I guarantee that you have to have that in you in order for you to experience it in him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no way
Yeah.
you can walk into a session and get what you get out of it, um, if you have, if you're just blocked to it. You've got to be open and ready and willing, as Scott says, OPG, which is openness, positivity, and gratefulness. And it's just, um, yeah, you've got to be there with him. Otherwise, you're not going to get anything out of the session.
Hmm.
And the great thing about Scott is that he can actually, he's brilliant. He can get you to the openness part. If you're struggling with it, he can get you there. So he's very patient. He'll work with you, and he'll get you to where he needs to be so that he can work his magic.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, for anyone listening who doesn't really know what Scott does,
Yeah.
could you give some examples? I know you said at the beginning that it's hard to explain.
Yeah. 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 Um, yeah, that's it. Honestly, the stuff he does, it's to do with like healing with chakras, with his third eye. He says, actually, one thing he says, that I have a lot of guidance, and by that he means I have a lot of I guess ancestral presence, and people, not necessarily people, but spirits guiding me as to where I need to go. And he's very aligned with his higher power, and his just that sphere of things. Like, you'd really have to ask Scott, because I'm one of his probably longest ongoing patients, and I still struggle to understand exactly what on earth he does. I know it's not a good vote of confidence, but it's really hard if you're not Scott. It's really hard to do it justice. Basically, all I can suggest is check out at Brain Guy on Insta, and he's got a couple web pages up and all that. There's some podcasts as well. He's probably the one who's going to do it justice by explaining what he does. Um, all I can say is that bear with it. He knows what he's doing, and it really will produce results. But at the end of the day, he's got a league of fierce followers that love him, and for good reason.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I really love the guy myself.
Yeah,
I think he's brilliant. And but I mean, what are you doing, George? Like, while you're sitting there with Scott, you're talking about what he's doing, but you're
yeah,
doing something, right?
yeah. I do. I tell him. I mean, I just bring my openness to the table, right? And I come to him with specific issues that are presenting themselves to me, maybe at the time, like, oh, my back's been really sore this week or something like that. And he'll connect the dots basically, and be like, okay, that's connected to the knee bone, and the knee bone's connected to the whatever. And he'll work backwards from there and find some um, fundamental issue that's driving that how does he say, dysfunction.
Hmm.
And he'll go into the crux of that dysfunction. I'll be there, explaining to him what's happening. We meditate a lot. It's a large part of our session as well. Just being in tune with our bodies, what's happening, the energy that's flowing, that kind of thing. It's really alternative stuff, and you've got to. It does take a while to get used to it. For the first year or two of me being with Scott, I was kind of like, oh, this is weird. And now, I'm meeting more and more people like Scott, and it's really cool. There's a whole network of them out there that really know what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you guys always do more like focus on shifting things from the mental perspective and through the meditation, or do you actually do movement too to get to that range of motion you got to in your knee?
I'd say it's about half. We'll do a lot of the work actually comes from the mental and the like the physiological. So we'll do maybe like most of our session. I see him once a week. We'll do most of our session for an hour, half an hour doing the mental and healing, that kind of thing, and then we'll go out and we'll test it. Like walking on sand was one thing for me at the moment. I'm trying to work more on like being able to walk on the beach properly and not sort of feeling like I'm going to throw myself onto the sand every 2 minutes. So we'll do that for half an hour, and then the next half an hour we'll be going out onto the sand and actually doing like practical stuff. So it's half really, to be honest.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
How's the sand coming along?
It's good. My mum's just bought a house up in Queensland literally on the beach, so I'm keen to get this one rolling. So it's going well so far. I've been able, actually this summer I've been able to go out to the beach more than I have ever because of that. Wow. So it's really exciting. I've got a bit of color in my skin for once, which is nice.
That's awesome. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
As I'm talking to you, I have no doubt that you'll get to whatever the goal is with the sand that you want.
Yeah. Just to go down there and have some fun, play some beach cricket or something like that. That'd be fun. It'd be nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. But that's just one example of small things that people actually take for granted. That is actually quite a big deal for someone like me. And yeah, so the list goes on. And he teaches me every week to be grateful for something. I have a list on my phone of things I'm grateful for, and he tells me to add to it every week. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, gratitude's such a powerful emotion.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah, so important. Yeah. And it's like, even just like you said, like so many things that people take for granted. Mm-hmm. So often we can focus on what's not working and what's not good enough, but there's always something to be grateful for, always.
Exactly. And even as someone in my, my position, I always think about, like, yes, I've got limited ability, but someone has it worse off than me. That's always been my driving factor. Someone has always got it worse than me, for sure. Mm-hmm. And, that in a way drives me to do better and to be better and just to keep going, and to also be grateful, hugely grateful. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have any other big goals, like besides the sand goal? Like, do you have any other kind of in the works goals and things you want to work on with him?
Scott and I are going to do a 5K walk/run one day.
Yeah?
Yeah. So that's a big one that we thought we were going to do it 2020, but COVID happened and sort of foiled plans for a lot of us. But we weren't actually there yet to the running point. So, but we'll get there. And when we do, you bet you're going to get a video of Scott and I running down probably the Harbour Bridge in Sydney and having a good old time. So I'm excited for that.
That's awesome. Yeah. I wonder if everything is probably helping everything. So even probably your sand training is going to help you with the running.
Exactly. It's all in the ankle. Yeah. Like it's when you think about how you run, you've got to have your ankle in good condition. But yeah, everything will lead to an awesome outcome. And it's, no matter how small the session or the, outcome of a session, it's all adding to a bigger, greater picture. And it's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a question. In all of this experience that you've gone through, this deck of cards that you've been dealt, What's been the biggest struggle, and how and what's been not only the biggest struggle, but what has been the biggest catalyst to help you overcome it?
Oh, okay, that's a hard one. I think the biggest struggle is has been, in a really selfless way, the effect that it's had on my immediate family. Just um, the mental health. My mother, has sacrificed a large part of her life to take care of me, and it's something that I could never repay. And I struggle with it, on an emotional level to process, how she must have coped with all of this. At the same time, the biggest struggle as well has been accepting it. I think I'm someone who likes to sort of deny until the point of like I can't. um, in saying that, I mean, kind of, I just sort of live with things, and I kind of emotionally put them in a little box and just get on with things. I think bringing that box out, putting it in a well lit room, and diving into it, it's a big thing for me. Um, what was the second part of that question? Sorry.
What helped you, like, what's the catalyst to help you overcome that? So, like, as far as like the box, putting it in the room and like looking into
Yeah.
it, how have you been able to like create that shift that you do that rather than continue to box it up?
Oh. Oh. um, I would honestly have to say just my sheer personality, the humor that I use to address real issues. Um, People that I've had around me honestly have played such a key um, driving force in my life. The support that I've had, um, and yeah, it comes from me. A lot of it does, and people always like, "Oh, I'm so proud of you, for what you've done and everything." And it's just like, well, I've never known anything really different. I'm just kind of keep chipping along with my life. Everyone's got their something that they're dealing with, and it's just how you approach it, how you mentalize it, and how you use it to shape the way your life is going. So a lot of it's just honestly just me.
Good. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
It's good that you even acknowledge that. That's so great because it's important that we acknowledge ourselves and acknowledge like the ways we're able to show up for ourselves in loving ways.
yeah,
And you know,
yeah,
even for you to like to be able to show up every week with Scott over and over again, to like invest in yourself like that, to trust in possibility,
yeah,
and know that there's more potential for you out there to keep growing and expanding is awesome.
yeah. It's yeah, it's. I've got to maintain that, Chasmith. It's gotta come from within, as you say. And I've got to pull up for myself each and every time, each
Yeah.
and every week, no matter how tired I am from work. I've got to keep going, because at the end of the day, it's gonna allow me to live a better and happier life. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and I don't like to even be like, oh, I'm so great kind of thing. I hate being like that. So I'm just I put my head down, I go and I do what I do, and I just if they're compliments that follow, then great. If not, then I'm not fussed.
Yeah. But it is good to be proud of yourself too.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Because not everyone, unfortunately and sadly, not everyone has that mental capacity to
Mm,
trust the power that they have, and to have the faith and the belief and the willingness to keep showing up.
yeah, yeah, and that's something I actually try and impart on a few of my close friends. Just when they're going through stuff, it's all about your mindset. It's all about um, showing up for yourself, and having those healthy things that you do for yourself. Um, yeah.
Hmm. And so we talked a little bit about what some of the struggles have been along the way,
Mm,
the bigger struggles, but what were like, are you at a place where you can look back now and find the gift in it, like see the bright side or the gift in the experience, and like how it played a role in a positive way in your life?
absolutely, absolutely. It's almost every day I have something like that that crops up in my head, and I go, wow, I'm so grateful for that. Um, even just like meeting Scott, and being told, at the time where my neurologist was like, I'm sorry, I'm just here to sign forms, and it's as good as it's going to get. At the time, that's really quite depressing to hear. It's it's devastating actually. But look what it sparked. It's sparked this whole relationship with Scott, with this journey of healing, and everything. It's a butterfly effect. It's really cool. So every mountain that I've climbed that's an emotional and physical struggle, it's always had its payoffs in the end, and you've got to look back and appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, that's really awesome.
Mm.
So what else? What else is going on? Like what else are you up to? What are other goals? Like maybe it's not even just the 5K. You have the 5K goal, you're
Mm.
gonna, work on the sand with Scott. Like,
Yeah.
is there anything else that you're just looking to like, continue to work towards and just experience or embrace or embody?
Not something major that comes to mind, but I am so excited for what the future holds. Whereas that's not something I would potentially be saying X many years ago. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's a next big thing around the horizon. I'll turn up next week to Scott's place, and he'll be like, "Oh, Georgia, next big thing." You know how Scott is, and their implants seed from there. So it's at the moment we're doing that 5K. We're getting my leg ready for that. We're focusing on that, and it's no easy feat. So you've got to put some time and effort into that. From there, who knows? I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
sure Scott is too. He gets very emotional with some of our big leaps and bounds. He's very invested. It's very sweet.
I can only imagine. It seems like he's the kind of person who would be extremely invested in the people he supports and helps.
He is, and he's been on the verge of tears a couple of times with some of our sessions. So it's really cool to have someone who cares that much and that deeply about what you're doing and how we're doing it and how I'm going. That's
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, just even, I know like just the power of sometimes like somebody else being in our life that believes in possibility, that
Yeah.
believes in the miracles, that has the faith for us.
Mm.
Sometimes that is huge in like the route we take, the direction we head, and what's possible for us. Because when you have somebody else that's like, I believe, I know this is
Mm.
possible for you, that like downloads into your spirit,
Yeah, it's a conscious agent, as Scott would call it.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not you actually believe that it's there, it still is. Like that's kind of what I try and be for my friends, like that positivity, just pole of positivity that beams into their life and that they can use from there. So it's a great thing to have in your life. I can highly recommend it if you can find someone who just beams energy and positivity. Keep
Mm-hmm.
them around.
Absolutely. And okay, so lots, I don't know who all my listeners are, but I'm pretty sure that based on the kind of nature of my podcast and the content, that there's
Mm.
probably a good amount of people who are experiencing their own hardships,
Yeah,
be it physically or emotionally or mentally,
yeah.
who might be in chronic pain, or they might have chronic illnesses. But so maybe not your exact situation,
Mm.
but their own hardship or their own pain that they're going through. If you is there like a piece of advice or a message that you would want to share with anyone listening that could support them wherever they're at in their journey?
Or I mean, all I'd all I'd say is that like there's always hope. It's just corny and cheesy as it sounds. There is always hope, and there is light at the end of the tunnel. You've just if you can find it within yourself to love yourself, and be open to things, things will happen for you. And um, yeah, I honestly I take my hat off to everyone out there who is going through something similar or different to something nearly as hard as I've been through. You've got to just um, oof. Believe in yourself, have love for yourself, and know that it's not a permanent thing. There are people out there who have incredible talents and healing powers, and if you need them, hit me up. Need some connections, let me know. I'll see what I can pull out. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's there's so many people in the world that have, you know, much worse off situations than myself, and you know, I actually see them every day at work and that kind of thing. So um, I yeah, I, all I'd say is just stick with it. Whatever you're doing, keep going at it. No goal is too small, and no mountain is too hard to climb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that possibility.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know that I know when I had a conversation with Scott, was like big on like the miracles are available, you
yeah,
know, the miracles are out there. So
yeah.
for all of us.
You just gotta believe.
um yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And so where can people find you or connect with you? Are you sharing your story or any of your progress on social media at all?
Not particularly. My social media accounts are mainly just me personally, but there is a forum for if anyone is out there with similar brain situation. There's a forum called the Hemispherectomy Foundation. A lot of my story is there, and you can connect with me on Insta. You know, Our Powers Within has my Insta. If you have any questions, um, but you know, mostly I don't actually post a lot about me personally. It's the people who know me that sort of get to follow my journey personally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not that
Um
kind of person really to sort of be like, oh, look at me, you know, I'm great.
yeah. Yeah. And I think your story is such a beautiful and powerful testament for anybody who's dealing with anything, really, because you literally are living evidence and proof that in the brain's capacity to rewire and like, and shift, because you know, there was a point in the world where scientists and doctors would have thought that what you've now accomplished today would have been absolutely impossible.
Yeah,
Like, oh no, there's no way that the brain on the same side of the body can actually control that body. But to be able to rewire the system so that now, you know, your leg is able to be controlled by the other half of the brain is absolutely amazing.
yeah.
And if the brain can do that, what else is the brain capable of, you
Who
know?
knows? It really is. It's cool.
Infinite.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And that book, The Brain That Rewires Itself, you know, I'd highly recommend it. Something a bit of light reading for me while I was going through all my stuff. And it, you know, it's really cool. I'm really a bit of a neurology geek now.
Yeah, I understand that. I've been geeking out on brain books myself. What is that book and who's the author?
Oh, it's The Brain That Rewires Itself. Let me
Hmm.
just, I actually forgotten the author.
Norman?
Imagine.
Is it Norman
I
Deutsch?
think it is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I read that one. It was really good. Is that the one where they even like hooked somebody up to like this technology and
Mm,
helped to like rewire and reroute pathways in their brain to
yeah.
something happening in their body?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. The Brain That Changes
Yes.
Itself. That's it.
Okay.
Norman.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I have to say, I am grateful to have you on here and get to hear a little bit more of your story and your perspective. But more than hearing your story, it's just um because you know I've heard the miracles of your story, but
Mm,
more it's to be in your energy and feel your energy and and like you said, your positivity, because I can definitely feel your energy, and I almost feel like I can feel your smile and
yeah.
um
Yeah.
and to just know what you've gone through and where you are today. And I just want to acknowledge you. I think that you're a huge inspiration.
Thank
And
you.
I think you're really a beautiful testament of what's possible.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate that you were willing to be vulnerable and come on and share your story, because we never know who it might impact or inspire.
Yeah. No, thank you so much as well. I'm, yeah, hugely grateful. I am actually smiling like a bit of a dog. the other end here. So thank you.
So I could feel it.
Exactly, you spot on. But seriously, thank you. It's been unreal, and I'm so grateful as well to have someone approach me for something like this. It's really unique and something that I don't think I'd ever be approached for before. Feel very special.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. And I really appreciate it's so great too for having somebody else get to like kind of speak on behalf of what Scott's doing. Cause I know it is a little difficult to explain. I've worked with him before myself and
Yeah.
it's kind of like, well, how do I put this into words? You have to just experience the magic in a sense.
You do really. Anything that I say is just not going to do him justice. I mean, it's it's a testament to him. You've got to just go and experience it for yourself, and just believe. And he can really work some serious magic.
Yeah.
So no, he's wonderful, and I highly recommend him to anyone. Just reach out to him. He's more than happy to take any questions or anything.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I just wanted to say thank you again.
Thank you.
And I look forward to hearing more. I look forward to seeing this video of the 5K when it happens, for sure.
It will happen.
It will, yeah.
You'll be
when it happens. It's not if, it's when.
It's when. It's for sure when.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I look forward to it.
I'll get Scotty to send it to you.
Awesome. He'll probably be posting it on his Instagram.
He probably will.
Yay. All right, Georgia, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
That is a wrap. I truly hope that today helped you realize what is possible even for you, for all of us, because as Scott says, the miracles are available for us all. If you have a testimonial or a message that you want to share, please reach out and let's connect. And don't forget to set up that small fun goal for yourself and make this week great.